All right. I actually do think I'm going to get started. I know myself, I know Terry, we probably have a lot to say today. We hope that you have a lot to say. Terry and I are both very interactive presenters. So if you have any questions, we'd love to have you put them in the chat, or if you have ideas or anything like that. So please feel free to add anything that you might have. But again, I just want to welcome you all for taking a little bit out of time out of this super crazy, hectic season of life, I think, as we wrap up the year and look at the new one. And yeah, we're going to talk about things about self-care. Hopefully, as we talk through today, we're going to talk about why it's important, what maybe some things to take away, some things to share, things to think about, maybe to, again, ease that little bit of piece into your life to make things a little bit easier. As we get started, I just want to let you know that this program that the National Genetics Education and Family Support Center, which we call the Family Center, is sponsored by HRSA. So we are thankful for their support. And here's their little disclaimer. I am co-presenting and super excited to have Terri Patterson here with me today. So I am going to let Terri introduce herself, talk to you just a teeny bit about herself before we get started, and then we'll jump right in. So, Terri.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Molly. So Molly and I have known each other for several years. I'm a parent of two young adults right now. My 24-year-old son is and was born profoundly deaf. That's what led me into the work that I do. I am currently the director of chapter support for the organization Hands and Voices. What do we do? So we're a parent-driven, a parent-led, as well as professionally collaborative nonprofit organization. We support families who have kiddos who are deaf, who are hard of hearing, who are deaf plus, with additional medical considerations, special needs. And we support them birth all the way through high school. So a big range of ages, right? And one of the key things for us in the support we provide our families is it's an unbiased approach to providing support and providing resources. We truly believe that the choices that families make for their children is unique for their individual deaf or hard of hearing child. And so communication choices, language choices, once parents are given the great information that is timely and accurate and vetted and comprehensive, that they'll make the right choices for their family that are good fits for their family. So my role within Hands and Voices as director of chapter support, really, I provide technical assistance and training for our 47 chapters and startup efforts across North America. And so I present and train and educate and talk a lot about anything from board development and nonprofit management to collaboration and partnerships with our national partners and systems within each of the states. But really, the parent leadership piece is my favorite part of that. And within that self-care that we're going to talk about today, I think is vital. I think it's fundamental and the foundation to building our parent leadership, which then encourages and empowers parents to become leaders of teams, leaders within their states, and ultimately leading to systems impact and change. So thanks.
Yeah, again, super excited to be here. Like Terri said, we've known each other for a long time, and it's great. We both share a passion for this topic and have talked about it and presented on it a couple of times. So my name again, Molly Martzke. I am the Senior Program Manager here at Expecting Health, and I manage our National Genetics Education and Family Support Center, which is, again, a mouthful, so we call it the Family Center, and it's really aimed at increasing that family leadership and family engagement around families that have or potentially are working through that diagnosis of a genetic condition for their family and their child. And again, I'm with Terri. I love this idea of self-care, self-talk, what that looks like, how you can sort of implement that in your day. And again, if you guys have any questions, you want to, jump anything in the chat, we're happy to have you here. So I am going to jump right into the topic here. All right. I was looking for a graphic about like how I feel like my life goes sometimes, and I feel like this is it. So, and probably like half a dozen more on any given day. We know that um, taking care of somebody, caretaking, especially if that child has a special healthcare need, you're working through that journey of a diagnosis, you have a diagnosis, you're worrying about the impacts, all of that stuff. Just adds to all of the complexities of sort of daily living in life. I just want to start off by saying if you guys came here for like we're going to solve all your problems by the end of today, unfortunately, the answer to that is probably no. That this idea of self-care, this idea of finding what you need, it really is a lifelong journey. It's a thing that you work on all the time because your needs change, your situations change, everything changes. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about like self-care. So what do I mean when I say that? I feel like we talk about self-care as you read the headlines, right? So it's sort of like we feel all these stressors, we feel all of this coming at us. We're trying to control things, what we can, what we can't control. And it's sort of like, oh, self-care, this magic thing that I can just fix all of that and then I can do all of the rest of this stuff. But it really isn't like that. So self-care is really sort of that it can incorporate different things. So it can be external things. So it can be this idea of what are those acknowledging those external pressures on us. It's looking at what are those things, whether it's work, whether it's insurance companies, whether it's, your provider, whether it's your family, whether it's any of those kind of things, and taking care of that. But it's also this idea that I really like to talk about and think about is mindfulness and reflection and sort of what are those internal things? What are those expectations I'm putting on things? Am I trying to control that maybe I can't control? And so when I think about that idea and about self-care, it's really this idea of like taking a self-assessment, looking at myself, whether that's a physical self-assessment and a tool that Terry's going to help and share as sort of like a visual for you guys to kind of go through, or if it's more like a mindful type tips and techniques of how maybe sometimes I just pause and I look and I stop and I say, okay, I can feel that. I know it's building up in myself. I know I'm not reacting the way I want to. I know I'm doing these things like what's causing me to do that? And maybe like, where can I pause for just a second, take an inventory of what's going on and go, huh, it's my expectation that we have to have 3 different kinds of cookies baked for this weekend. Okay, maybe that isn't really what we need. And so it really is sort of that idea of how are we going to take care of ourselves? Because honestly, at the end of the day, our bodies are only built to take so much stress. And there is stress that you can control. There is stress you can't control. One of my favorite saying is I can only control how I react to something. And so this really is that sort of that idea of we need to be able to take a little bit of control of that, of how we're reacting, of how we're processing, how we're doing that, because our bodies will start to shut down. Our bodies, we will get to be sick. We will be all of that because it just cannot take that. And it never happens at the time that we want it to, right? So it's always like, oh, I don't have time for that now. Well, usually our bodies then, it's usually at the absolute worst time that it says, okay, you're done taking care of this now. At least if it's if your body reacts the same as my body. So yeah. So again, how do we refuel ourselves? How do we take stock? That's kind of how I wanted to set us up. Terri and I, we both love this tool that Terry's going to talk about next, this Wheel of Life. I think it's a great way of sort of looking at some of those external pressures, sort of where your life is. So Terri, I'll let you, unless you had anything to add on any of those wise comments that I just had.
So wise. This is Terry. Yeah. You know what? A quote keeps coming back to me that I use a lot, and it's from L.R. Nost, and she's a best-selling author. She's a child development researcher. But it's taking care of yourself doesn't mean me first. It means me too. And I think that resonates and is very simple because uh, I do leadership development with our organization. And self-care is always in the first part of that. And I find that our leaders, it's usually the self-care piece that they're really challenged with, because I think as oftentimes mothers, caretakers, spouses, partners, and then working in a field of nonprofit where we're supporting not only our own kids with special needs, right, but other families and other leaders, that it's hard when we leave one of these categories, we leave work or we leave a family event and feel like it's okay to take time for ourselves. And so it's getting past that guilt. It's about thinking of, not to be trite, but you can't pour from an empty cup, however you want to talk about it. If we're not taking care of ourselves, like Molly said, we don't have it in us, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, whatever that might be. So again, Molly and I have presented on this before, the wheel of life. This is one. There's gobs and gobs and gobs of tools and exercises and checklists you can Google on self-care assessments. This again is a nice one because it has a visual representation. And it is really simple to do. And we're going to talk about that on the next slide. But first, I want you to kind of get an idea of what we're talking about self-care. We can say that self-care is, oh, so you mean I need to go take a 30-minute bath at night so I get some time alone, or I shouldn't spend so much time on my phone on TikTok or Facebook because it's taking time away from time I could be spending with my family. But in order to have balance, and so balance and satisfaction are the two key words that go in line with this when we're talking about at least this particular exercise. So you see a circle right here, and it's divided up into 8 different categories. As we talk about it later today, these categories, you might want to use these categories. You may want to stay with this. This is a model. You may want to adapt some of these categories. But I like this slide because it does give some prompt questions. So talking about physical environment up on the top left, right? We could be talking about the community we live in. Geographically, are we in a location that we have easy access to the resources we need, whether that be services for a child, whether that be proximity to where we work. If we work outside the home, it could be how far and long does it take us to get to the supermarket. So how satisfied are we with this? Because this whole scale is going to rate your satisfaction in all these different areas. And so self-care can play and does play into all these different sections of our lives. But again, physical environment could be how comfortable are you in your home. I know for me, tidiness is a really valid thing to my sanity. It doesn't mean I have a clean, tidy house. It means that when my desk gets piled up to here with papers and it's disorganized, I'm not effective at my job. I'm not effective when I go out to make dinner for my family, if that's what I'm doing that night, because I'm thinking about the mess on my desk. So for me, I know that when I do talk about opportunities to build self-care in, that's spending 10 minutes cleaning off my desk. That means spending an hour putting laundry away in my closet. So you look at these different things. It might be your work. Are you thinking about, am I where I want to be professionally? Am I volunteering? Maybe it's volunteering. Maybe you don't work outside the home. Maybe you do. Finances might be tied to that. And that's is what's coming in, taking care of my needs and my family's needs about what needs to go out paying bills. Or am I prepared for retirement? Do I have a plan for that? How satisfied do I feel about that? Health is a biggie, especially this time of year, right? Are we all eating the best? Are we making time and energy for exercise? Maybe not. Socializing's up there. That's a part of it. Are we feeling isolated? And that feeds into the family and friends. Maybe those are 2 different categories for you. Again, do you have a support network? Do you have friends that you can go to? Do you have a family unit, whether that's extended or your nuclear family? And I like when you look at the questions on family and friends. I know I'm bouncing a lot. And over on romance, we're talking about love. That could be with your partner or spouse. That could be how satisfied you are with the love within your family unit. But what I like about those, it's not just asking and prompting you to think about, do I feel loved? Am I getting what I need? That's a part of it, but am I expressing it the way I need to? Am I reaching out to my mom as much as I really should be? I know I'm busy. I'll call her tomorrow. I'll touch base with her tomorrow, when I can look at opportunities for self-care being a 5-minute phone call with her, or a text to her, or a check-in with her. So these areas are the categories you might choose to put in your circle. And then you're going to rate your satisfaction, and we'll talk about that next. But think about these prompt questions and how they relate specifically to areas within your life that are important. And so it's not just job stress or home stress. There are different ways we can build in self-care, and they don't have to be hour-long or day-long. They can be 10-minute walks, taking a break from your desk at lunchtime. Next slide, please.
And Terry, I was just going to add, and maybe this is on your next slide, but like, I know these categories are all filled in, but like people can choose, right? Like you can rate and decide what's important to you, or it's sort of that. And there's no like, you might rate something a 5 and I might rate it a 6, or what, like, again, even the same situations, right? Or is that your next?
Absolutely.
I don't mean to jump ahead of you.
So exactly what she's talking about. So this visual shows a completed circle of life. Circle.
It is kind of the circle of life.
Wheel of life. It's a circle. Everything is a circle. So setup again, like I mentioned, you can go to that website that we've got in the resources and on that previous slide, and you can print a template. The easiest way for me is if you have a piece of paper in front of you, pull out a piece of paper and draw a circle. Divide it into sections. Does it have to be 8 sections? No, it could be 6 sections. I would caution you not to add 12 categories in your life to fill in. I think 8 is a good number, but maybe you start here with these specific categories, or maybe you add spirituality is one of your pieces of pie. Maybe that's important to you on how am I fulfilling and feeling satisfied within my spiritual life. That might be faith-based, whatever that means to you, or it could be your contribution to society, that volunteering, that philanthropic piece. Maybe you divide family and friends. Maybe family is its own piece. Maybe friends is another piece. Maybe you combine some of these. So the idea is to start somewhere and to build upon that on what's relevant for you. So you can draw your own circle. That's the first part of it, and divide it into the categories, choosing what you want. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to have to rate your satisfaction. So this exercise recommends a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being in the very center of the circle, 10 being on that outer circumference of the circle, meaning I'm most satisfied in that area, right? So an 8 to 10 means, I'm feeling pretty satisfied. I'm doing pretty good. I feel comfortable in this. It brings me joy. I feel like I'm doing well in this. Does that mean you stop there? It absolutely does not. It means I need to be sure that I'm maintaining that level of satisfaction within that pie piece. And it also means there's always room for opportunity to grow your circle. The whole idea of this is about growing your circle, not trying to take from one to lead to another. Because there would be a tendency to go, okay, I'm too satisfied in business and career right now, so that must mean I'm working too much. So I need to work fewer hours, or don't put as much effort into the work area because I'm really low on my fun and recreation. These are separate of each other. And the whole idea is once you rate yourself on this circle, that the balance grows into your own somewhat circle. So again, 5 to 7 would mean, I'm pretty satisfied with what I do. There's room for opportunity, and I can build activities that are going to grow my satisfaction. And if you're 0 to 4, It doesn't mean you're doing a bad job. It's not to beat yourself up. It means you've got a lot of space for opportunity to build in. So whatever area that might be in, and again, Molly's going to talk more about some of these strategies to do that. We're going to figure out, you know what, if family and friends, I'm not spending enough time on my parents, on my mom, doing a 5-minute phone call or a text or inviting her to dinner does nothing to take away from the time and satisfaction I'm getting with my career, with my work, or that I'm exercising. I don't have to take time away from a 10-minute walk I might take during the day to call my mom. You finding ways that you can combine those areas so that you're seeing more balance. So in the beginning, it is going to look more spider webby. The purpose of that then is to reflect on, once you've colored in up to your rating in each of these pie pieces, you can put a dot on it and then connect the dots to take a look at what that shape. And again, if it's a circle, I congratulate you. If it's a circle all of twos, we have a tendency to underestimate ourselves. There's a lot of opportunities in all those areas, but this is going to identify where the gaps are. So take some time to appreciate the wheel. Take some time to say, I'm a little low in the fun and recreation. So what are things that I enjoy doing that I can build into my world? And that's where taking action is so important. I mean, we can talk about this all day. We can talk about all the assessments that are available to us, right, Molly? I mean, but unless we commit to building a habit, and it is a habit, it's scheduling it in, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too, but it's building these small habits in, and it's not building in a day at the spa. You can do that, all good on you, but it might just be a 10-minute break during work to get up and walk your dog, or a commitment that you make to walk with the kids 3 evenings a week, wherever that might take place. So yeah, anything?
Yeah, no, I love this. Again, for me, it's that very visual, like how smooth is my ride sort of idea. Um, and sometimes in my life it can be super bumpy. And again, some of it's external controls, right? It's things we can't control. So maybe you have a huge project due at work, there's deadlines, it's all of that. So it skews everything out. So it's bumpy. But part of it to me is that self-reflection, that you can recognize that, hey, yeah, it's out of whack right now, but I know this might be a temporary thing, versus even that idea of reflecting on, is this a long-term thing? Again, the end of the year, we tend to put a lot of pressures on ourselves, like, oh, finish strong, do this, do that, right? Like all these expectations of what we think we want things to look like. But that might make our ride really bumpy. And is that good for ourselves? And whose expectations are those? And is it temporary? Is it long term? So again, to me, I like that. I'm gonna put this in the chat, ask everybody like how are they feeling about the smoothness of their ride as they're sort of looked at those questions, and they sort of they kind of thought about this. But and I love how it's like, again, I know you said there's tons out there, but I like how it's really adaptable to what's important to you, and because we're all individuals. So
No, this is Terry. This is something that when you draw it or you have a picture of it, take a screenshot of it. I've put mine up on my bulletin board. And if nothing else, once I've looked at it, it's a reminder I need to start working in a particular area. And it gets to a point where, oh, I didn't do something, but going, you know what? I'm a little low on the health place, so that reminds me, I need to get up and I need to move. I need to change my location. I need to maybe make sure the snacks I have handy at my desk are grapes and maybe not a bag of M&Ms. Take a screenshot of it. Have it as a memory. It's building a habit.
yeah. All right. Speaking of habits, I am going to talk a little bit about sort of the process of meditation, this idea of self-reflection. This is something that I've really leaned into, because for me, it has been this. I read the headlines like, oh, self-care, find, or the top 10 lists of self-care things. And like you said, Terry, it's like, oh, go to the spa, do this. And for me, that not isn't necessarily like what fills me up. Like that isn't my kind of thing. for me, it really is sort of this reflection of like, okay, what's causing me stress? And I'm like you, I like a clean space. I started to think about when I get emails into like, again, I don't know how many email boxes everybody has, but those ones where you've signed up for an email to get the discount or whatever, I've started to unsubscribe for them. And every time I do, I'm like, that's self-love, because now my inbox is not going to get an email every day from like 20,000 different places that, I signed up for an email at some point or something like that. So I started to even like think about things differently. But yeah, so I'm going to focus a little bit, like I said, people a lot of times talk about self-care and they really talk about those external practices like exercise, healthy eating, pampering ourselves, all of that. But I'm just going to talk a little bit about this role that incorporating reflection and meditation into our self-care routine really can help bring that well-being, I think, into really that more a different level, help you gain some clarity and amongst all of this busyness of our life, and sort of really sort of identify what you need as an individual. So again, there's really no right or wrong way or method to reflect. It's really more about creating that intentional space to do so, and really allow yourself some space for introspection and self-discovery. One of the things I saw was journaling. So journaling as your daily routine. Some people that really works for. I'll admit journaling doesn't work for me because I start to put it as like another thing on my to-do list. It starts to give me anxiety. I'm like, oh, I was going to journal and now I'm not doing it. And oh my gosh, it just raises too much, right? But for others, I know it's a really helpful tool. So they can start to, it helps them like prioritize their thoughts. It helps them start to think about things and stuff like that. So again, journaling has a really nice space for some people. There's other ways of just practicing just general mindfulness and meditation. So you can incorporate mindfulness into your self-care routine, just simply by setting a little bit of time each day just to sit and be still. Maybe it's the same time of day. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's like, oh, maybe it's when you have time, or maybe it's again, you're in the car line waiting to pick somebody up from school and you're like, you know what, I'm going to put my phone down, I'm going to do a self check-in with myself, see where I'm feeling, how I'm feeling today, what kinds of things I need. You can do guided meditation. There's tons of apps out there if you want to do more of a guided meditation, if you don't want to necessarily do that. But it's really developing that habit, like we said. It's really that sense of calm and clarity and self-awareness that comes with that sort of just stopping, trying to block out all of that external stuff that's happening, and really just look inward and see where you're at. And they really, mindfulness and meditation is to serve as anchors that really ground us in that present. So it's when you're outside taking the dog outside to go to the bathroom for the 100th time for the day, and you actually stop and you're like, oh my gosh, the sun is shining today. I didn't notice that. And it's really just that, it's just even that 10 seconds of noticing something and being present and not letting the rest of that outside pressures kind of get in there. Um, Another way to like, again, think about things is you can ask yourself some self-reflection questions. So if you have a hard time just stopping, pausing, taking notice, you can actually put some questions and ask them to yourself and be like, hey, what am I grateful for today? Gratitude's a lot of things. Um, the I was like the looking at the laundry and I was thinking about all the laundry. Honestly, this morning I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much laundry. I can't even believe this. How am I going to get this done? And then I actually stopped and went, you know what? I'm grateful that I actually have a washer and dryer in my house and I don't have to leave and take it out. Um, and I have laundry that I'm doing for people that I love. And again, right? So it's just sometimes it's sort of that shifting that mindset of how we're thinking about things. Um, Another question you can ask yourself is what is one thing I can do differently tomorrow to support my well-being? So like maybe at the end of the day, as you're like getting ready or whatever, and you think about it and you think about what today looked like, and you're like, what can I do for myself tomorrow? We call that in our family, we call that like, I'll be like, oh, tomorrow Molly's going to be really happy that she did the dishes tonight and didn't wait for that tomorrow, or, to do that tomorrow. Or even if it's even longer term, we'll say, oh, you know what, January, Molly, is really going to be happy that she answered those emails today. And so it's sort of that future self. I'm taking care of my future self sometimes. And I look at that when I do some of those questions.
This is, can I interrupt?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think one thing too, right, is having a buddy, have someone hold you responsible for it. You know how on an iPhone it drives me crazy, but it'll tell you it's time to stand up.
Yeah.
It's time to take a moment. And I catch myself yelling back at it. I don't have a moment right now. And I could just turn it off, right? I could find other ways, but different people need different methods. So maybe you set a timer. Maybe you have call a buddy, set it up with a friend. Hey, might be a work person, another person, another parent that you work with, and make them check in on you. So did you do this today? Or if you're leading somebody else, if you have someone on your team, say, I'm going to call you on Monday and I'm going to find out if you did something restful or fun over the weekend. And I think it's something you can teach your kids to do, right? How can we start working with them at young ages to understand there's a place to be still and to be calm and to be quiet and introspective, and can be a game going, okay, for the next 5 minutes, we're going to meditate and practice with them, make it a habit that way, help give them strategies as well. So as they grow, they've got opportunities to do that too.
Yeah, I love that. And this idea of rest, I'm glad you brought that up. We need rest. This is something that it has taken me a long time to actually come to, that rest is not a reward. It's something my body needs. I would always be like, oh, if I get all these things done on my to-do list, then I can rest. I can take a break. I can do this. But I've slowly, some of us, it takes a little bit longer, but I've slowly come to the realization, I'm never going to finish my to-do list. I will never get to rest. Like, rest is not a reward. It's acknowledging it's something that my body needs, that I need as an individual. So sometimes, you know what, even if it helps me, I put rest on my to-do list, because again, it's that little mental games we tell ourselves, but then I'm like, yep, I did do something today. I acknowledge that rest was not a reward, but it was something that I needed today. So glad you brought that up about rest. So yeah, again, those are some like general things. I just want to talk about like how reflection really nurtures ourselves, how it nurtures our souls, how it, nurtures who we are. It really provides that space for us to delve into our emotions and our thoughts with sort of like, I think of as curiosity and compassion. And some of us are more comfortable doing that than others. And again, that's where I started off saying that there's no right or wrong. It's really about understanding yourself. And it's taking that time to identify and really acknowledge those emotions within you. And again, so when I start to think about emotions and how I'm feeling and how that's like playing into this idea of my self-care, I check in with myself, for as corny as that sounds, like, hey, how am I feeling about this? How does this make me feel? What are the thoughts that this is giving me, or something like that? Again, it goes back to, how am I reacting to this? And it's sort of thinking through that, like, why am I reacting this way? Because what emotion is causing me to react that way? So by recognizing, exploring those emotions, I think it helps you to take steps that you can address them, right? So they can help me find, I'm like, oh, that triggered me. And then it can help me look for something to do, some self-care activities to relax or seek support from loved ones. Um, you know, you can set goals and intentions around this stuff. So again, thinking about what you learned, what you truly desire, sort of that wheel of life, where you'd like to be, what areas you'd like to think about and stuff like that. You can start to ask those questions about, what actions can I take to move myself closer to those goals? And I know Terri will talk a little bit about creating that action plan. You can use this time of reflection to sort of set intentions for the days or the week ahead. You can sort of give yourself a purpose, and by identifying your priorities for the day. Again, I know, oh my gosh, I've got 8 meetings back to back to back to back today, but you know what? Self-care for me today looks like I'm going to drink my water and I'm going to get up and go to the bathroom. And that might be my self-care for the day, but that's what today holds. And tomorrow, I know my calendar isn't quite as full. So I might schedule in that 30-minute nap that I like in the afternoon or whatever that might be, right? So again, it's sort of setting those intentions, looking at that day, just really being intentional about it. Another big one for me is practicing self-compassion. I find most of my stuff that really stresses me out is my own expectations upon myself. It's how I think things need to be done. There's that, again, Terry and I, we love quotes. We send them back and forth to each other all the time, but it's sort of that comparison is the thief of joy. When I start to compare what I have or what I see on Instagram or what others are doing or how others are managing or what that is, then that starts to steal away the joy. That starts to take away. So it starts to really look at, what's important to me, and do it with kindness and compassion. And I think about things, and sometimes what helps me about myself is I would be like, okay, if Terri was in this situation and she was doing this and going through this and she was talking to herself the way that I find that maybe I'm using those words towards myself, what would I say to her? Right? Like I would be like, that's not true. Those aren't true words. So trying not to see myself and how I would look at a friend if they were talking, thinking about themselves that way. And again, just cultivating gratitude and positivity. It's easy to get caught up in all of that, the to-dos, the I got to, I have to. But it's really that time to reflect on blessings and achievements, those moments of joy, whether they're big, whether they're small. Um, the sun is shining, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Like I said, I really do try to look for even those small things during the day. Um, but yeah, I would just say it's, self-care really is this lifelong practice. Meditation is this lifelong practice. We go through different phases, different journeys of our life. There's external pressures that change that we do not have control over so we're just trying to offer some tips, but yeah, so I would just say, again, create some dedicated time and space, put it on your to-do list, put it in your calendar. Find those 3 minutes during the day when you put down your phone and you really check in with yourself. Keep a journal if that's helpful. Ask yourself those questions and really like challenge yourself to kind of delve deep about thinking about why you react, how you react. And again, give yourself that self-compassion. If today wasn't a good day, today wasn't a good day. Tomorrow we'll do better. So that's what I have on self-reflection, Terry. How do they put this into action?
Action. So right, it all sounds good. I mean, you guys are practicing self-care right now because you're taking an hour to listen about it, and you may be going, yeah, sure, I should be doing the laundry right now. It's about being present, right? And that's a really hard thing to do when we've got phones that are going off and kids that need us and are calling us, dogs that need to go outside, doorbells are ringing, emails are blinging, and it's hard to just be present and to just listen. So that in itself is a lot of self-care, right? And being realistic, right? It's going to be personal. Self-care is going to be very personal to you. Some of these things might resonate with you. Some of these are like, sure, sounds good, thanks, and you move on your merry way. But it's setting boundaries too. You hear saying no. You're allowed, right? We beat ourselves up. Molly talked about it. We don't speak kindly to ourselves all the time. So making space for that. We live in this culture of busyness. I'm too busy. I have too many things to do. I'm busy. And my husband always says this to me. He's like, you know what? Everybody has time to do the things they want to do. So, and I think about that with that. I get my deadlines done. If not, I communicate about them, right? But if we think deep down, if it's important to us, we're going to do it. So that's why taking care of ourselves isn't taking care of, it's a group thing. It's not selfishly about me. It's me too. Right? So an action plan. So think about it. It needs to be simple, right? You're not going to do anything. You could walk away, draw your circle and go, oh, that's a good idea, and file that away. But I encourage you, even if you have something, draw a circle on and write Wheel of Life, just as a reminder. Maybe that works for you. Maybe it doesn't. That's an action plan. But looking and talking about it isn't enough. It's putting it in writing and making yourself responsible for completing it.
I
Oh,
went too far. I know. I'm trying to get back, Terry.
there you go. So, I mean, it might be writing 3 goals of what you're going to do, that you're going to achieve. So if it's on the circle of life, it's going, you know what? I'm really low on the health part. So I am going to commit to maybe not going to the gym for an hour once a day or once, I mean, every day of the week, but maybe it's a 10-minute walk or a 20-minute walk 3 days a week, and writing it down and checking it off, making someone check in on you. You know, it might be work related. I'm going to turn my computer off at 5 o'clock every night because I'm going to have my boundaries with my career because I'm satisfied with that. But then I'm going to commit to being present for my family, for my kids, for my pets. It's looking at checklists. There's tons. I love looking at self-care checklists. This is a really simple one, but they're reminders on different things that might work for you and might not work for you. Eating 2 cups of fruits and 3 cups of veggies. Yeah, not me. Sorry, not a veggie girl. It's a goal. I'm not going to achieve it. But 15-minute guided meditation, like Molly talked about. Taking 5 minutes to do breathing exercises. Do that at your desk before you open your email box, right? Unplug the technology for 2 hours. You know what? Or say, you know what? I'm going to get on Facebook so I can catch up with people, but I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes. And when the timer goes off, I'm going to turn off that. So it's writing it down, put it in your calendar, type it into your phone, whatever you need to make yourself accountable for that. And set a deadline for anything you set. Like right now, I challenge you to write 3 things that you're going to do that are either going to bring you enjoyment and fun, give you relaxation, or refuel you and energize you. It might be reading a new book that a friend told you about, but write 3 things that are going to help fill you back up so you're ready to go when your kids need you, your job needs you. Crises come up. You know, the holidays are here, right? Are we enjoying them or are we freaking out about them? Right? So figuring out how we fit that in, even for 5 minutes. Revisit that wheel. Like I said, if you complete it, if that's something that works for you, print it out, take a screenshot, keep it visible, because that's going to remind you, oh, you need triggers. You need triggers that are going to build into actions that you're going to have deadlines and you're going to remember, okay, that's right. I told myself I was going to do that. What other brilliance do I have for you today other than it works? You got to take care of yourself. You know, use any analogy you want. You know, on a flight, the oxygen mask drops. They tell you to put the mask on your face first before you help someone else. It doesn't feel natural. But if you're not there to support your families, your children, your teams, your colleagues, there is no leadership happening that. So take care of you. But Molly.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love all those ideas, Terry. Again, I think it's, how we started and we said that there's really no like, it's always going to be there. We always tend to start to drop those things off first. It's really trying to put those things into place that trigger them for you so that they become habits and again, you don't have to do all of these things all at once, right? That sets yourself up for failure and just adds more stress. So it really is what's manageable, taking stock, finding the assessment that works for you, finding the stuff that works for you so that you can put those into place. And again, I love the talking to people. I love that, creating that support network, whether it's your friends, your coworkers, your friends who are coworkers, all of that to go, you know what? You said you were going to take Friday off. I better not see an email from you on Friday. Like really being harsh about like, no, you need to give yourself permission that you are on vacation. There is nothing that will happen that you need to send an email. Please unplug. Like, please, it's okay. But also knowing that I do give people grace because I also say, if that makes them feel better, then you shouldn't also judge them. So I know that's like a double-sided message of like, oh, don't do this. But I want people to see that they have the permission to unplug and use that time, because I do think it is valuable. But you know what? If you helps you relax, and like block out the rest of the world and do your emails for 30 minutes a day, then do your emails for 30 minutes a day, because you're using that as like a tool and a technique too. So I think it can be both.
What kind of things are bubbling up for you as you're listening? I mean, what
I
types of things?
know.
You don't have to create new activities and add to those to-do lists. Think about, for me, fun and recreation. Reading refuels me. I love fiction. I read every night before I go to bed. I could read every time. I do that for hours a day. But I know on the professional development, I was like, I'm not quite sure what to do. I'm not quite sure where to add that in. Well, take something that you do enjoy. Reading, I do enjoy. So it's getting involved in a leadership book club, which then forces me to read on a topic that will help me professionally or with a hobby or something I'd like to learn about. And I'm doing it because I'm reading, and that's something that fills me up. So I'm doing two of these areas all at the same time, rather than going, okay, I've got to do this class over here. Molly and her hobbies. Personal development isn't all just about learning more about leadership. It's learning a hobby, taking pottery classes and working on that, taking dancing classes, doing something to fill your soul. Do it with another family. It doesn't always have to be a solitary activity.
Mhm. You can send memes to your friends every day, and that's a way of spreading out some joy. I just wanted to share a few of these things that I found that, I love a list. So here's some list of some TED Talks, some self-help books, some apps that can make things easy for you. I honestly, what I do is I follow some people on Instagram that post, just once a day. So I come across their thing about self-care, and I've really been intentional about reading that message. And it's sort of like becoming unbusy, I think, is one of the ones that I like. And it really is this idea of like trying to take some of that busyness out. And so when I read that, I think about it for the day. I just pause 15 seconds, and to me, again, that's sort of like, oh, I grounded myself right now. So yeah, so there's lots of stuff out there around self-help, self-care, whatever you want to call it. I just, again, I'm not sure if anybody has anything in the chat or things that they like to share, like what type of activities they like to do or what they're struggling with. But I will leave some of these resources up. We'll also send them out when we send out the recording and stuff like that, so that everyone has all of them. And as we wait to see if there's any questions or anything else, we do have evaluation, and for our friends who love data and evaluation, this is a way of taking care of them. If you could please fill that out, we would love to know what you thought and if you had any ideas for improvement. And again, we hope you have something in the chat. I don't know, Terri, did you have anything else you wanted to add as we wait to see if any questions come in and people fill out the survey? How's your wheel looking these days? How smooth is your ride?
This is Terri saying, how smooth is mine? You know what? It varies. And I think that's the thing about the wheel, right? Is it's a moment in time. It's a snapshot of where you are right now. And, it really is encouraged that you look at it at least every 6 months and see, where are you changing? Where are you finding opportunity? So like I say, I do keep mine up on my wall, and mine really has been, my mom moved really close to me, like my backyard. So won't a story for another time, but I get busy working during the day. And then when I'm not working, I want to have some downtime, whether that's watching a show, reading a book, or whatever. And it's really resonated with me when I look at that family, that I've got her so close that I need to be dedicating the time, and that it's not always 3 hours of visiting with her in her place or my place, but maybe it's inviting her to dinner. Maybe it's just sending her a text. Hey, how's your day going? But that connection on day to day, rather than waiting until it's too late going, I wish I'd spent more time. So I know that the wheel has really kind of gotten me back in that family piece. And the exercise is always a good reminder that I don't have to commit to going on an hour-long walk out in the neighborhood if it's cold, that just taking the dog out for a walk for 10 minutes in the middle of the day is getting up and moving rather than, so yeah.
Yeah, I am. My youngest is home from college this week, and I was just thinking about a friend who moved away. She used to be in my book club. We used to do a cookie exchange around the holidays and stuff like that. And she would always be like, "Oh, I love your cookies," this one recipe, and I'd make it every year. And she'd talk about how much she loved it. And I was just thinking about her the other day, and I was like, I really miss her. And so I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make some cookies with my daughter who's home, so I get to spend some time with her. And then we're going to send them to my friend as just sort of a surprise, as sort of like that little gift of love in the mail, just so, again, she knows I'm thinking about her, and really putting some of those thoughts into actions. And that fills my soul, like thinking about that idea of sending her love and making her day, and how excited she's going to be when she gets that package. So I think that's something that's one of my intentions for the week. It's only Tuesday, so we'll see how the week goes. And if it doesn't happen, then you know what? January is okay time to send cookies too. So it's that self-compassion and those expectations, and what that means and what that looks like. So, well, I don't see any questions in the chat. I hope this was useful for everyone. I hope everybody enjoyed it. The survey link was in the chat, but then here's my contact information. Here's Terri's contact information. Like I said, we send out the recording and the resources to everybody after the webinar. I hope you all find a little bit of time for some self-care, some self-love for yourself today. And I really appreciate Terri being on here, sharing her wisdom. And yes, we will put the website, it'll be on our YouTube channel once we get it all cleaned up and all ready to go. So we'll share that link out to you all once we have it. So thank you all for joining today.
That's Terri. I commit, if any of you needs permission to not feel guilty and to take time for yourself, you email me and I will give you permission personally to take time out and spend on enhancing that wheel and growing that wheel. So thank you for having me, and enjoy your day.
Thank you.